9 o'clock. Should we stand for the pledge? If you please.
Brandon, can
I
you
pledge
interrupt?
allegiance to the
Can you interrupt,
flag
Brandon?
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And with that, we've called our meeting to order. First item of business is the approval of the agenda. I have 2 items to add to the agenda
Okay.
that are, there is an acceptance of a resignation of Lauren Arneson as adult services social worker, effective the end of business day, December 30th. Thank Lauren for her year of service to the residents of Houston County. Initiate a competitive search for an adult services social worker to replace Lauren. Accept the resignation of Michelle Mossman, Child Support Officer, effective the end of business date, January 3rd, 2022. And thank Michelle for 13 years of service to the residents of Houston County. And as a result, initiate a competitive search for a child support officer. Adding those 2 items to the agenda.
So it's actually 4 items. To the
Those 4
consent
items.
To the
Accept the
consent,
resignations and then initiate the search for each one.
to the
Right.
consent
Separate.
agenda.
To the consent agenda, correct. Additions or corrections?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda with those additions.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve the agenda with the 4 additions. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 I'll wait for you, Greg. Those opposed,
Aye.
same sign.
Aye.
Motion carried. Next is the approval of the previous minutes. First is the work group session from November 16th of 2021.
I'll make a motion to approve the work group session minutes.
I'll second it.
Motion made and seconded to approve the work group session November 16th, 2021. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, sorry, Greg. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next is the approval of the board meeting November 23rd, 2021.
I'll make a motion to approve those minutes also.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve the board meeting minutes from November 23rd, 2021. Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those, sorry, Greg. I'll get it before we're done. Those opposed?
Did you get me?
Motion carried. What? Motion carries. Next is the public comment. Anybody here or anybody online has a public comment to make that's not part of the upcoming schedule? Hearing none, we have appointments. We're a little ahead of schedule. Matt, are you Brandon, are you ready?
Yes, I am. Is my audio better now? Can you guys hear me this time?
A little bit.
Yes.
All right, terrific. Glad we got that figured out. Well, as you can see from the information I provided in your packet, what we're here for today is the state of Minnesota is requesting a resolution from the county to allow the purchase of a partial 40. It's about 37 acres that's adjacent to our current Root River Wildlife Management Area within the Root River floodplain. There's no row cropping on this track. It's too wet. The owner had persistent flooding issues. There's some pasturing on it, but no row cropping. He is a willing seller. We contacted the township to see if the township had concerns about this acquisition, by the state, and they expressed that they did not have any concerns at this time. A little bit other information, the payment in lieu of taxes calculation for this parcel is $981.75 a year. I provided some of the previous tax information for that parcel, that was available on your Beacon site, which is more, but we're only acquiring half of the acreage of that parcel. We're acquiring 37 of the 74 acres. And so, and we're not acquiring the homestead that's on the north side of the highway. And so when you're looking at that, that's just, food for thought. Yeah, and then really I'm just here to also see if you guys have any questions or concerns, about this. And as I said, when the state of Minnesota, acquires a parcel, we have to get a county board resolution approving that purchase. And so a lot of these lands within this floodplain, a lot of you are probably here. I'm not sure if it's entirely the same group, but a lot of you are probably here back in the spring. We made a similar request further downstream, and a lot of these areas were approved by a previous county board in the early 2000s, as after some, pretty major flood events. And but due to the time that's elapsed, we felt it necessary to come back, and get reapproval basically for acquisition of tracts within the floodplain. So with that, I guess I'm open to questions or comments or anything like that.
Do we have a map or a picture of where this particular land is in reference to Highway 16?
Yeah, that was one of the things I had provided a map. I'm not sure, is that in you guys' packet?
I'm trying to get to it, I guess.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Is
No, it
this,
was just a big packet. That's,
is this adjacent to that 40 you bought here last year, correct?
It's not adjacent to that land from I think it was March when we came to you guys. It's not adjacent to that, but it is adjacent to another 40 that we already own.
So is this off the Walker property or?
What is the parcel ID number?
Yeah, I'm not sure if anyone can help with what page the map.
it's
that I
on page
provided.
44, the map is of our packet.
It runs concurrent or adjacent to the county highway.
Mhm.
Yes, it's south of the county highway.
Brandon, do you have a parcel number for it or not?
Let me see. Is it
Didn't see
possible
it.
for me to share my screen through this at all?
Yeah, you could.
If you know how.
We don't use this
It could
platform
be
here. I'm not.
possible. You're just asking the wrong people.
Brandon, you can share your screen.
How do I go about doing that? I'm sorry.
Right at the bottom.
Just go ahead and pull it up and see what happens. And I think if we have trouble, if it doesn't come up, we'll get Andy down.
Oh, here we go. I've got it, I think.
Yeah. Click on that share screen.
I'm trying to, oh, I think I know.
There you
what
go.
this is.
All right. Can you guys see that map now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So the left-hand side is kind of a zoomed-in aerial of the property. And then the right-hand side shows the current state holdings in a more zoomed out perspective, more of a locator type map.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe this was always pastured. It was never farmed. Is that a correct statement?
If it was farmed, it was a very long time ago. It's been pastured, since we've been in discussions with the landowner.
I think it's off Francis Wilkes Farm.
Sounds right.
The current landowner is Trasinski. Oh, if that
Yeah,
helps at all. But.
new.
And what are the acceptable uses of that land once the state owns it, Brett?
The primary use is wildlife habitat and public recreation. That can mean, a lot of different things. We use a lot of different management practices on our grassland units, which can include grazing, if it's beneficial to the resource, or haying, but wildlife habitat and public recreation are the primary, the primary.
So this can't be used for any wetland credits?
It can't be used for wetland credits. That being said, we do, because the state has a policy about wetland credits on, when we do a restoration, we do it to do a wetland restoration, not for credit banking. And so we do restore wetlands, and that would be, that's something we usually look into on properties, depending on the history and the layout. But it can't conflict with, neighboring, drainage and issues as well, but yeah, it's generally not as a part of a wetland bank, but we do wetland restorations.
The public hunting land as well.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions for Brandon?
I'll make a motion to
No, no.
approve the,
No,
no?
that's an action item.
It's later on.
I mean, you could go to the action item now if you want.
No, let's just wait till the action item, I guess, unless we have more. Doesn't matter.
Okay.
So we appreciate your presentation, Brandon. It's the first action item we take, but we've got a lot of other
Okay.
appointments for people to make presentations.
Nope, that
So-
sounds good.
We'll take action when it comes time, but that's probably not going to be till about quite a while, about 11 o'clock probably by the time we get to that. But
So wouldn't we be better off doing an action item at this time? No. Okay.
it's just
It's
out of
okay,
order
it's
of
up,
our
yeah.
agendas.
Well, that's what I assumed you would do. That's why I said see action item number 1 in
Right.
parentheses.
Yeah,
But if
I
there's
saw
somebody
that.
out there that wants to come into the board meeting and follow the agenda,
The
they
action.
might not come until later for the action items, and then we're throwing it out of order. We'll just leave it in order the way it is.
Okay.
Thank you, Brandon. Next
Thank you all.
item is the Houston County Agricultural Society Fair Board presentation by Emily Johnson. This is an action item number 2, but so it'll be a little while before we act on it.
Yep.
How are you, Emily?
I'm good.
Good.
You guys should have the financials.
Yep.
So
Yep.
this year we actually got to have a fair. Not like 2020 where we had to cancel out. It was a bit of a struggle. We kind of hit, with the fair starting in June, July, they were breaking records across the entire US. By August, there was a spike in COVID again, so it kind of hit and we fell right in that slot. Talking to other organizations and community events and stuff, they had the same thing we had. People are being scared again, so our numbers in attendance was down some. The people that did go to the fair, they loved it. They had a blast. They were glad that we brought it back.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
It's just kind of a tradition. And you don't know what you missed till you lose it for a year.
Yes.
Our concerts, our attendance was not where we anticipated. We struggled through it, we got through them. Demo derby, we had the issue of trying to find enough seating. So that was a great help for us to kind of boost everything. Overall, we made a little bit of money, not where we wanted to be, but we survived and we're doing okay.
You
So
came out ahead, you didn't end up in the hole.
we did, we came out
And that's
plus.
a good thing.
That's always a good thing. So we did have the new livestock building up and running this year, which was a huge, huge asset for us.
And I heard so many good comments about it. It's
Lots.
beautiful.
Lots and lots of good comments on it. We had a ribbon cutting ceremony that Wednesday, start the fair off with that. Each fall now, we've got an awesome crew that has started a haunted house and scare the fair at Halloween time. All those funds go into our building account. So we kind of kicked off fundraising for phase 2 in the building. So
And what is phase 2?
phase 2, we kind of went back and forth. Essentially, phase 2 is the cattle barn, pretty much right across from the new building, would get level. what we intend on doing.
No, not where the beef,
Yep, where the beef are.
that one.
Yep.
Okay, the old one there. Yep.
Yep, the dairy barn is technically in worse shape, but being we have to go from fair to fair to demolish, level, build,
Yeah.
Mhm.
there's a lot more dirt work over with the dairy barn. So what we want to do is level the beef barn, put up a new building, put exterior bathrooms in it, put a milking parlor in it where the public would be able to watch. Eventually, once everything would get done, because the beef would still be housed in there for a while, we'd have to walk the dairy over to milk. But just due to safety right now, we can't take beef and walk them all the way across the creek. So, but eventually, once we make it all the way through phase 3, the dairy barn would then essentially be beef and they'd get flip-flopped around.
I like the idea of having the milking parlor in that barn for people to watch because they love that at the state
That's so
fair.
much.
Yep, and that's what we want to do. We want to take one corner and put the milking parlor in it, so they're walking between buildings and they can see it. We want to have a couple of bathrooms, kind of like down by our historical society, of outside entrance into them. So
Mhm.
we want to do that. That way it'd be a lot more feasible with events on the grounds up in that area, dairy shows and whatnot. So that's kind of what our plan is at this point. Obviously, it's going to take some money to raise again, but
Mhm.
And this would be a good thing for, I don't know what you want to call it, safety, health, and welfare of the county.
at our last meeting also, we had talked about a couple of ideas that we're going to start researching, take advantage of some of the ARPA funds.
Mhm.
We've talked about like hand dryers in bathrooms. Being we rent.
Like automatic faucets or something like that.
Yeah, we're not sure on the faucets yet.
Yeah.
We'll research on those. Hand dryers would be beneficial because even once
Yep.
they're done, and it would save us on paper towels. We've also looked, or we're gonna start looking into some portable hand washing dispensers. For like up in buildings, you
Sure.
know,
Mhm.
court, kettle buildings, stuff like that. We rent a couple each year, but that adds up too.
Mhm.
So we're just getting into the researching and starting that process, but. that's
Well,
kind of
keep
the
us
plan.
up to date on that.
Definitely.
Right now, you're looking for the general appropriation plus that additional.
Yeah.
4,000.
Yeah, we have to go back for the 4,000 each year.
I like your new financial reports. They're really,
Yep. a couple
Really
years ago-
appreciate that.
Yep, a couple of years ago, we
yeah,
literally went through and started from scratch, and
yeah.
it's a lot easier now. We can, there was, looking back at the old one, there was so many things that, the same thing would get put into all different spots. So
I
now it
know.
is broke down exactly where we want it.
Yes, it looks good.
Yep.
Was your Tough Trucks event pretty decent too, or?
Tough Trucks does okay. That is an event. They come in, they take care of the back gate, they run the show for us at no cost. So the grandstand is profit for us.
Okay,
And it is growing each year.
okay.
So we're definitely looking at bringing that back again this year too.
My tractor pull friends would like to see a fair tractor pull again.
But yes, and it's hard to fit everything in.
I know, I get that, yeah.
And the money it takes just for
Mhm.
renting the sled, and
That's an expensive deal because you got the insurance and the sled,
it is very expensive. And
but it is volunteer help too, so
Mhm.
we'll have to work on that, see what we can fit something in there.
Yep, and the only night right now we're Thursday nights, and Thursday nights are really hard to get attendance.
Would that draw more people though, tractor pull, that'll get people in there on Thursday, kind of. No,
Well, that doesn't work for the guys that work, you know,
Yeah.
it's kind of an
Right,
odd
that's
night.
That's the hard part we have, so we're looking at a low-key, cost-effective show
Mhm.
on Thursday night.
Yeah.
So
Okay,
planning is definitely underway for next year.
Well, Appreciate the presentation.
Very good.
I saw the information on the
Yeah.
packet that we had.
Yeah.
The building fund, that's that 45,000.
Mhm.
That's where you're at right now.
Yep.
Okay.
Mhm.
So you got a budgeted number that you need to do that?
That'll be a big one.
That one, that building, we're not looking at concreting right now, so we can.
Sure is nice on that other one.
It is very nice.
Mhm.
But it adds up really fast too. Probably the 150 to 200, depending on materials when we get that far.
Yeah.
Right.
Materials is a big question, right?
Yeah, and see if we can get some donation in on, if Langs will help us, if we can reuse some of the milking equipment and stuff too, or if we're just gonna go all out new.
Right.
That'll be expensive.
That'll definitely add up.
Toward the fair though, the dairy barn. That's not a pretty
It's old.
thing. It's
It's
old.
old. Yeah.
It's so hot.
It is, but the reason we kind of wanted to flip flop them around is if we have to level that building, get all the dirt, we'd have to level it after fair, get all the dirt work done, get the building up, plus the parlor in it before fair.
Mhm.
That might be really tight on our timeline.
Timing is everything.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, so that's kind of why we chose to do it that route.
Mhm.
Greg, you got any commentary?
Nope.
Okay.
Don't want to leave you out just because you're on the screen.
Thank you, Emily.
Thank you, Emily.
Oh, I'm just listening. Sounds good.
Good.
Well, Eric isn't here yet from Hiawatha Valley. And I don't think I see Claudia online yet.
Yeah, I
No,
had
not
it
yet.
factored in time to vote
Yeah.
on the action items, so that's kind of why, but
Correct. So Donna, we are gonna move out of the schedule a little bit and take the cash and investment review by you.
Sure.
That's all right.
Sounds
Gotta add
good.
to our packets the information from Donna.
Mhm.
So
Okay.
at the floor.
All right, you all got the spreadsheet that lists the, it's the treasurer's daily cash trial balance that we complete each day. And as of October 29th is the date that I chose, only because we haven't balanced up the November statements quite yet, so that is the last month that's accurate. So October 29th, cash on hand is 19,235,417.85 as highlighted. As you will see, down on, as the spreadsheet, going down the spreadsheet, certificates of deposit equal $1,266,2.14. That's with the local bank. And then we've got the certificates of deposit with multi-bank securities and Raymond James and Wells Fargo, and those total $2,539,000. And then we've got some bonds at $390,000. And then the general account is $6,087,779.23. And then we go on to the next, then we have just some small accounts. And then the next one, the next large account is the special money market account at $7,176,771.62. So as you go down a little bit further, we've got the general fund investment summary. And the total of $11,472,032.04 is the total amount that's actually earning interest today. And the interest rates are shown individually on the interest paid rate column within the spreadsheet. So those are the interest rates we're currently receiving on our investments. Is there any question on that spreadsheet?
So the older the investment, the higher the interest rate?
Pretty much, because the newer investments are not earning very much right now today. Very hard to get a good rate.
Right.
Yeah, and then The other sheet, which is the second tab on what I sent you, is the fund investments. Yep, and they are actually listed out with Road and Bridge, Human Services, General Fund, Soil and Water, and Collaborative. And they're all broken down here. Nothing much has changed with that. You still got your Road and Bridge CDs, both with a broker and with the local bank. Plus, we have a money market account with 1,101,600. So the total for Road and Bridge is 1,493,600. And then we've got Human Services has their own special fund of 200,000, and the general fund with between recorders, tech, EDA, recorders compliance, tech equipment, and E911 totals $3,057,914.60. And then we've got the next, all the rest of them down the line is just soil and water, which I just keep track of for soil and water. We don't, that's not a part of the county's money. It's just shows what their balances are. We have the collaborative account, which is 50,000. Any questions on that worksheet?
Yeah. Total general fund investments, the green one. What do you got for a balance there?
The green one is
Yep.
3,057,000. Oh, wait, no. Oh, I see it's a little, let's go to the top. What does it say there? $3,050,966.99.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, something must have happened on the other, on there, but that's the total, because we've got a total of 5,029,541.12.
When you add all those together.
Right.
Yep, all together we've come up with that, and that is, you know, when I do my audit work, we do list those on the spreadsheet to balance up. That's part of my total, so we have to list them all separately.
Yeah.
Okay.
The
And
road
yet-
and bridge used,
What was that,
the
Eric?
road and bridge used to be more than that, correct?
No, it's not. We haven't changed that at all.
All right.
Mhm. And then we've got, just for some special information, I did break down the investments, what is actually liquid, which is the blue, and then 1 to 3 years, which is the orange, and then 4 to 5 is the gray, and then 6+ is the kind of a light orange there. Just shows how much of the.
It's peach, Don.
What was that?
I
Excuse me.
said it's peach.
Not orange.
Oh, peach, okay. I'm colorblind. So that is the breakdown of the actual investments, which includes the 11,472,032.04. So just to give you an idea of what is coming due and what is actually liquid money for the county. There any questions on that?
Oh, I liked your little circle showing that. The graph. That's new and improved, huh?
Mhm.
No, I don't know.
Well, it's kind of nice to see how much is liquid, because now that I don't know how much more we're going to need from, for the highway building and stuff, but we have, I moved out of the broker certificates right around $3 million in the past couple of years. So some of that has moved back into the money market for liquidity, and the other is just, we've just used that money. So some of it's been moved around, but for the most part, we still have a lot of liquid money in the money market account that can be used if we need it.
That's all. That's good.
And the other little spreadsheet here is just to show in the 5-year period how much, what the cash is pretty much done. And right now it's about the same as it was in 17. It kind of goes up and down. It kind of fluctuates, of course, with taxes that come in and out, That's kind of how it goes. But for the most part, right now with this date of October 29th, it doesn't have a lot of we don't have a lot of the tax money in there because a lot of it comes in like the first part of November. So of course that's gone again now because we've settled on that. So the money is gone out of the accounts, but at this time of year, this is pretty much the true story. So.
Right.
Well, if you look at 9/30/2018 and where we're at 9/30/2021, we're pretty close.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
2017, we were down.
Carol, did you have anything to add on that? On my finance? Okay.
It was a nice report. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Sat and tried to digest it.
It's there.
Ray, did you have any questions?
Oh, it looks good.
Okay.
Very good. Well, thank you, Donna.
Yep, thank you.
I did not even know we had paper copies of it. Good thing I didn't try to print off.
So, moving forward, Eric Sievers has arrived from Hiawatha Valley Mental Health. Are you ready, Eric? Come on down.
I have a handout if you want. Yeah.
Sure. I'll come and get it.
People virtually don't have it, I guess, but that's okay. So I appreciate the opportunity to come in this morning, and thanks John and his staff for having some time on your busy morning. So
That's okay. You can start.
my name is Eric Sievers, and I'm the executive director with Hiawatha Valley Mental Health Center. So we've been in Houston County, since 1965, part of a 3-county community mental health center, and very committed to Houston County and the needs of the people that have mental health and substance abuse treatment needs. And some of you may know about a year and a half ago, more already, we moved into a new location in town. So if you ever want to check it out, we're on Kingston Street, just around the corner. Just to again show and commit to the county and the needs of the people in the county. So the thing I wanted to specifically share with you today is some of the improvements we're looking forward to in the new year. And that's to become a certified community behavioral health clinic. So I'm going to say CCBHC, that's Certified Community Behavioral Health Clinic. That's just a short version of which Bob is. If you ask Bob about it, because he's on our board. So this goes back 7 years ago. The federal government passed legislation to create this new model of care for people with mental health and substance abuse needs. And 7 years ago, they said, let's have some states try this out. Minnesota gratefully was selected as one of the 8 original states to try out this new model of care, and was decided that we in Minnesota would be a demonstration state. And for 2 years, 8 agencies in our state piloted this new model of care. It has grown significantly nationally to where now in Minnesota, they requested Center for Medicaid, the federal center, CMS, to have it become part of their state Medicaid plan, which it is now part of the state Medicaid plan. So in our state, we moved from a demonstration state to now we actually have the ability, if you're an eligible entity, you can apply to become a certified community behavioral health clinic, which we have been working on for the last year to become. And so what is that? What does that mean? When I looked at the value of our agency and for the community, it doesn't mean a significant change in what services we provide, other than a few that I'll highlight in the handout you have. The biggest improvement of becoming a CCBHC is it sets new standards of care for us to be in compliance with. So today, the things under the integrated care listing that we do today will continue to do in Houston County. We provide outpatient mental health and substance abuse services. We do that today. We'll do that as a CCBHC. We provide, they call it psychiatric rehabilitation. So we have people that go into homes and into the schools in Houston County and provide skills training. And we'll continue to do that as a CCBHC. We provide 24/7 mobile crisis services in Houston County. We'll do that in the future. The things that will be new to improve the integrated care are screenings. Screenings is one thing that we have started trying out in Winona County, and we hope to do a better job in other locations. And what that is better integrating primary physical health needs of individuals with their behavioral health, mental health needs. And so some of the things we're doing today is looking at person's height, weight, and tobacco use, all things that could help indicate maybe they need some education around tobacco, maybe they need some help with getting set up with primary care if they're not established with a primary care provider. So that screening will be a new thing that we'll do with anybody new in our clinic in Caledonia. And it'll be something done at their first appointment and then annually. Movement as a CCBHC that we look forward to. The other thing that is going to be new as a CCBHC is listed as targeted mental health case management. It's mental health targeted case management. So today in Houston County, it's 100% solely done by county personnel. The added value of us doing it is the eligibility as a CCBHC is broader. So as a CCBHC, we're eligible to provide case management, mental health case management, if someone's offered and interested and they are at risk of suicide. So today, that's not by itself a criteria to receive mental health case management, but it would be as us as a CCBHC provider. So it helps improve services, we feel, through those expanded items. The last two items under integrated care, we have some work to figure out how can we better serve the armed forces and veterans. So today we don't have anything targeted or focused on how we can improve care for armed forces and veterans, but as a CCBHC, we'll have to figure out how we can do better for them in this area. The biggest, well, there's a lot of parts to this, but the coordination of care will be a significant change for our agency. Today, even in our agency, we have therapists, we have psychiatry providers, we have our community-based staff, and they work together, but they have their own things they do. So that'll continue, but we'll have a care coordinators who will better integrate what they do. And then also integrate what we do with others that provide physical health or mental health services for people. So care coordination is a vital part of this model. That we hope to add a number of staff who will have that role in the new year. So with all that, how is it really different in Houston County? The goal is better access to care. So we have in our plans to add services in a way that people will be seen based on an initial screening of the need and be seen sooner. That's going to be difficult. Because already our access is challenging, and we have to come up with not just hiring more people, but doing things better in some way. So the wait times is a big goal. As a CCBHC, we're required to offer access within 7 days of request. And then the last thing I'll mention is how it's different. It's really how we're paid as an agency. So since it's now a Medicaid benefit, today the way we're paid for our services is if someone in Houston County comes into our Caledonia clinic today and sees our advanced practice nurse, we will bill Medicaid for that appointment at a set rate. I know our person that does services for adults, he has a group today he's doing at 3. He would bill that, we bill Medicaid for that same individual that saw the psychiatrist today, a separate rate for that separate service, okay? So in the future, those 2 appointments for that one individual today, we would be reimbursed at 1 rate. It'd be a per day service, not a per visit service reimbursement model. So our rate for some areas will be better. For some areas, it won't be better. Case management's the only exception to that. Is for case management, it's a per month reimbursement, but at a rate that the county does not have a match requirement like you do today, because it's a CCBHC service that was provided. So that's the biggest change in Houston County and how it might affect your area. And the new service we will be offering, the new service is case management. And primarily for those that don't fit into the already eligible area that your county personnel can provide. That being those that are at high risk for suicide. Otherwise, we'll continue working with the county personnel. We have a really good relationship with John and Bethany and their staff, and we look forward to the new year working with them in this way. I shared a lot there and I hit the highlights, but I don't know if anyone here or at home have any questions for me.
So this new model is going to require a match from us, correct?
It will not require any county funds.
It won't at all.
Right, that's
None at
right.
all. Okay.
Right. Yeah. And the methodology, we were required to submit to the state costs that go into providing these listed services. And they were close to finalizing what, based on our cost, our Medicaid rate will be. And there's no county financial responsibility for people that receive any of these services based on their MA, like for case management. Today, there's a match, there's a federal rate and then the county match of that, and there will be no county match if we provide the service.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I got confused between the two there.
Yeah.
I guess my question is, you're looking to work more with the armed forces folks and the veterans. Do you contact the veterans service officer of each county then that you're working in?
Yeah, one of the requirements of the application process was that we do a needs assessment, and through that process, I did reach out to each of the five. We're in 5 counties, and had a brief conversation with the Veterans Office. But it's more. We need to do more with that, and that.
Sure.
But yeah, that'll. The hope obviously is providing services in a way where people don't have to travel as much, and that's why I really like having a location here in Caledonia, because if people live in town and they need these services, they don't have to go to Winona, or they don't have to do it this way on Teams or Zoom if they don't want to. We're right in town. So.
With regard to the Caledonia office, any kind of numbers that go through there?
Oh, I don't have them. No, you stopped me on that one, Bob.
I'm just curious.
The hard thing with we do so many services in the out of the office. That I would have to get numbers on, because we're in almost every school district in Houston County. We have a therapist at least a day a week in the schools, and we're working on the final detail with Caledonia schools now, as well as adding some service for the school kids in Caledonia School District 2. And we have adult community-based people in our mobile crisis program. So our numbers are probably more out of the clinic than in the clinic, to be honest with you. But we did add a nurse practitioner who prescribes psychiatric medications for those who need it, and she's increasing her time a bit in Caledonia. So it's increasing, but I don't have the numbers with me.
So does each school district contract with you to provide services?
Yep.
Okay.
So that program is funded through a number of ways. We have a state Minnesota Department of Human Services grant.
Right.
And each school district contracts with us because we provide more than services for the students. We help support the staff and the school too.
Yeah.
And then we also, if someone has insurance, we bill that insurance too for the treatment parts of what we provide. So it's funded through those 3 main areas today. Has been for right around 10 years we've been doing that service in the schools we're in. Yeah.
So it's not only students. I mean, teachers have a lot of
Right.
stress.
One of the things with the, yeah, the state grant funding requires that we provide and offer some kind of in-service and education for the staff around whatever the district feels they need in our area. So that's something we do too. A number of the districts in, well, Spring Grove is one, and Caledonia is looking at using some of the unique funds they received from, I don't know if it's the Rescue Plan Act or where the funds are coming from, but some of the unique federal COVID dollars that have come to the districts, that's allowed them to offer new and enhanced sort of programming that we're doing in Spring Grove and hoping to do in Caledonia. So. Any questions virtually? Is this Teams or Zoom? Looks like it's Zoom.
It's Zoom.
Greg, you got any questions?
Not really. Sounds good.
So has it been challenging to hire staff?
It has been, and it's not unique for our agency or for the area. And I say that having, I was at Gunderson Health System for 7 years and managed their outpatient clinics there. So even in a system like Gunderson, when I was asked to look for a therapist in like the Toma area, let's say, it would be a challenge to find someone for there.
Mm-hmm.
So we have good experience because we're very well connected to the universities in the area. As we typically have people in training to be therapists that we then can hire on. And our challenge is more about keeping people
Mm-hmm.
after 2 years or so.
Mm-hmm.
But we've had relatively good experience finding, not a large pool of candidates, but some. It seems to be getting a little better. But it's a bit challenging, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think it's new or unique to our industry because of the
No.
pandemic. Honestly, it's something I've experienced for years in this work in this industry. So.
And there's competition. I mean, your competitor, I mean,
Yeah.
they're always looking, and I think people tend to move more now than they used to as far as jobs.
Well, and I think the other kind of competitor for our recruitment efforts that has come up new is that the utilization of technology to meet their needs has been known and is now a new thing. And there's 100% virtual providers out there now that have come into our area.
Really?
Some might rather use that than we still really feel it's important to be with people. Some
Mhm.
people have to have it in person.
Yep.
And that's why we'll be here in Caledonia in the schools and some it works very good this way. And we do offer more virtual. I don't have the numbers, Bob, but I don't even want to know. But,
No, that's okay.
but we do way more than we did in 2019 for sure. So we've learned a lot of how we can do things better for some people, not everyone. It's not a fit for everyone. Yeah.
There must be limitations as far as when you're in the schools from the perspective of underage people coming to, I mean, there's a parental consent or something?
Yeah. I know we work out all the things in place, and that's what takes a little bit of time is getting consent in place from the parent. Really, everything that you need to have in place if they were seen in the clinic needs to be in place to see a student in the school. What we do different in the schools is most of our time with the kids are shorter, usually like 30 minutes, so they don't miss a lot of class time. But they either way, they save in the end because and the parent benefits because they don't have to miss work, go to school, pick up their child, pull them out of class, take them to a clinic, and there's a lot of time saved with not having to travel. But all the consent and okays are in place before we ever meet with a student.
Okay. So it takes time to get things set up then as far
It
as,
does.
if you have a student that needs assistance, you still got a process to go through before you can provide it.
We do for those that fall under what this, and that's a grant requirement. Some of the thing I mentioned in Spring Grove, we're doing an after school group, that's the district's funding that, so we don't have to, It's more of an open psychoeducation classroom kind of thing, not a treatment per se. So we're able to, but the school then has to make sure parents are informed and okay with the child being in that group.
Sure.
So the funding, like most things, drives some of what we do and how we do it. So.
Thank you.
Any
Yeah.
other questions? Thank you, Eric, for
Yes,
coming
thanks.
down.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you very much. Have a
Thank
good
you.
rest of your day.
You bet, you too. So,
So
is that Houston County?
just for clarification, just so that you know, when I put the appointments on, we try to accommodate the guest times that work for them. I don't think the rest are ready. They probably will be coming on at 10 when they're scheduled. So I was assuming we would be bumping back and forth between the actual agenda and the items on here. You know, I just list them first by time, by appointment, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they're gonna be one right after the other. It's when works for them to come.
Okay.
I see if Claudia is on, if Jennifer Norman is on. From that we can, Are you on?
It looks like Claudia is on now and probably another person from Bank of the West. iPad 2, is that Bank of the West?
Jennifer, are you on?
She probably can't hear you if you want to come forward, but.
Yeah, come on forward, Mr.
I mean, she just might not be ready to.
Right,
if it's
right.
at 10.
Jennifer, are you on as well? Jennifer Norman?
Claudia's here.
We see you, Claudia.
Hi,
Yeah.
Claudia.
Jennifer, maybe not on quite yet.
So is iPad 2, is that Jennifer?
iPad 2 doesn't know who iPad 2 is probably.
Mhm.
You know, Claudia, is iPad 2, is that Jennifer? She just came up.
It's possible. I know that we were trying to join
Jennifer, is
around.
that you?
There she is.
Hi, good morning.
Okay. All right, I think we got everybody now with the technology.
You must be Jennifer on
I
iPad 2.
am. Hi,
Okay,
good morning.
hi.
So, we have Bank of the West now for a presentation. Are you ready?
I think we are. Steve, you're
Okay.
there?
Yeah, we are.
Good.
I got hard copies of the packet that was handed out. If you
Perfect.
prefer to do that, they can.
Yeah, 'cause I have it on my screen, but
You should look at this thing.
I know it's in our packet. but it might
it
be
is,
easier to
yeah.
follow.
Yeah.
Honest, I thought it was a separate one, but it's nicer.
Just some general information. that you sent
Okay.
in the packet.
All right, thank you.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Alrighty.
You have the floor.
All right, we got all technology working. That's always a blessing. I'd like to introduce
Depends on
myself.
your
to those
point
that
of view.
don't- Pardon?
I say it depends on your point of view.
Yeah, right. I'd like to introduce myself to those that don't know me. I know there's a lot of familiar faces here, but I'm Steve Ingmelson. I'm the branch manager at Bank of the West here in Caledonia. I've been with the bank for 23 years, kind of in a commercial lending role, and then been with in the present manager role for the last 8 years. So native of Caledonia, grew up on a farm here and have my roots here. So with that being said, I also have two partners that just joined us here. Claudia Stagora, she's a kind of extension of the bank. She's also another relationship manager that kind of houses out of the Twin Cities market. And she kind of helps me with some of the relationships we have. So you kind of get two for the price of one, if you will. And then we also have Jennifer Norman, who works more so our cash management area. and she'll be doing the majority of the presentation that you see in front of us. But having said that, I just want to give you a little quick history and background of Bank of the West for some of those that may know some and some may not know quite as much about it. So Bank of the West, we've actually managed the county relationship. Gosh, I don't honestly know how many years, but I know the checking account, it's been 46 plus years of a great relationship with you guys. From that perspective, it could have gone back farther than that, but that's the history that I know of the bank. And we can't say thank you enough for your partnership with the county and giving us the opportunity to continue to serve and help the county. We'll get into products and services with Jennifer and stuff later, but just to give you a little quick history background, we provide mostly the transactional side of the accounts. So a lot more of the moving parts, the parts that cost more from an efficiency standpoint and those types of things. We have EDS services, which is a fancy way for basically being able to deposit the checks remotely. So that's been an efficiency for the county from that perspective. Along with that, we have several checking accounts that we manage for the county, and then provide various online services that they can utilize for wiring money, transferring money, and some of those types of things as well. We greatly enjoy working with Donna and her team. Carol is here as well. So we've seen a lot of familiar faces over the years, and it works really well having the same people. You're blessed by having Donna and her team in that position, as she does a wonderful job with the county. First, I'd like to review just a little bit about the background. I did a separate one page sheet that I'll just kind of cover before we get into the presentation. It just goes a little bit about the history of Bank of the West and some of that information. So Bank of the West itself is basically originates in San Francisco. They've been around for 140 years. We operate in 24 different states, mostly west of the Mississippi River for the most part. Locally, we have our Caledonia location has been in business for over 100 years. We currently have about 500 locations, with the closest being Mabel in Decorah, Iowa. We have approximately 1.8 million customers, 105 billion in assets. And looking on page 2 on the back of the handout, just to flip over, if you guys notice that, it kind of shows the credit ratings and some of the strengths of the financial backing of the bank as far as stability. And you can kind of think of it, for the most part, similar to a report card, where the A is obviously strong. The F1 is not a F like it is in grade school, simply the way that Fitch grades their short-term investments portfolio and stuff like that. So as you can see, we are a very strong, well-backed bank. The capital ratios, if you look at that, our tier 1 capital ratio being about 14.37. I'm not going to get into all the details behind that, but basically what that means is I think the FDIC requires about an 8 ratio, and anything 10 or stronger is very, or 10 or better is very strong from that perspective. So we are strong from a standpoint of the capital we have versus our risk investments. As far as the breakdown of portfolio, you can see we're pretty well balanced in the amount of commercial loans we have, consumer real estate, a pretty good blend of mix. So we're not overly saturated in one certain area of a certain market to provide additional risk. Above and beyond that, as far as the financial highlights, you can kind of look at that bottom right-hand corner and just kind of a visual. You can see that we've been growing in both assets and deposits over the years on that bottom right-hand corner, if you will. Along with that, we received various awards over the years. And so I won't spend a lot of time, as I know we've got a tight agenda here today. Our parent company is actually BNP Paribas, and that is basically located in 68 countries. So overall, by our parent bank, we are the 9th largest bank in the world from the standpoint of assets. Other notable facts: we're the 3rd largest ag lender in the United States, along with the 3rd largest SBA lender, which brings great value to especially what we do here in our local communities with our agricultural and business relationships in the community. So one question that I kind of often get is what sets our bank apart from others, if you will? Because everybody has checking accounts, everybody has deposits, everybody has CDs. Most banks do mortgages. What's different about us? Basically, we're a fundamentally different bank, and how you ask is through the focus of sustainability, global impact, and diversity. Bank of the West markets themselves mainly on the fact of it's going green, it's keeping the environmental friendly type of products and services and financing companies that are not doing oil drilling and some of those things that can basically impact the future climate and those types of things. And that's kind of the way we market ourselves currently, is how we're different. And we're the first bank to kind of go that route, from what I've been told from that standpoint. And with that being said, one thing that we also do that's kind of unique is we have a checking account that's on the consumer side that's called 1% for the Planet. And Bank of the West basically gives back 1% of the revenue for every debit card transaction that's swiped. The revenue that we receive off that transaction from the customer, 1% of that revenue is given to companies that are basically promoting the same standards that we're live by from that perspective, as far as the climate change and those sustainability types of environmental companies. So that's something that's unique to us. And that doesn't come out of the customer's pocket. That doesn't come out of the vendor's pocket that's accepting the credit cards. It simply comes out of the bank as far as the profitability that we get, because we are highly vested in basically that type of diversity and the climate change atmosphere and things going forward. With that being said, I'll turn it over to Claudia Stodora to introduce herself a little bit more about what she does, and she can kind of take it from there.
Hi there.
Okay,
I'm Claudia.
okay.
I am the relationship manager for Houston County recently this year, and I'm looking forward to working with the county and helping Steve. My role is essentially to be the advisor and liaison to the services and products that we have at the bank. That includes the lending needs of the county, if there are any, merchant services, cash management, corporate card, wealth, investments. Pretty much, I am the connection to all of those services. I try to know as much as I can about them, but my specialty is really in lending and finance. I've been with the bank for 25 years. No, that's not true. I've been in banking for 25 years. And I love what I do, and I love helping my clients. And I'm really here to just listen to hear what Jennifer has to say, primarily talk about the cash management products. So Jennifer, I'm gonna pass that on to you. And anybody has any questions, you can talk to me at the end.
Sounds great. Thanks, Claudia. Good morning, everybody. My name is Jennifer Norman, and I am the cash management specialist that works with Claudia and our other corporate bankers and our local branches here in Minnesota. So my expertise is in the cash management services. So I help customers make sure that they've got the right products and services for them to be able to do their job efficiently. Another part of my job is to make sure that I keep my customers updated on what's happening in the industry and business best practices. And so that's some of the information that we're going to go ahead and cover today. I have been with the bank since March, so I'm fairly new to Bank of the West. However, I've been in the banking industry for 25 years. And I've worked on the banking side, and I've also worked as a practitioner. So I was a treasury manager at a local cable company and a broker dealer in the past. So I've got a unique perspective in that I know what's happening on your side of the table and can understand what some of your challenges are because I've been there. So today I'd like to go ahead and go through the presentation that Steve left with you. we are going to, I want to go over the account services. We're going to talk about the fee structure a little bit, and then just want to touch base on some of the things that are happening in the industry. So we're going to start on, I'm not sure what page this is, the overview of, there's no page numbers, the overview of current cash management services. So you currently have 5 checking accounts under analysis and 3 non-analyzed checking accounts and a money market. So if we go to the, actually, I think I'm more of a visual person, so I like to look at the picture. So if you go to the next slide where the account structure is with the boxes, your lead billing account is that big box. So the 5 accounts underneath that all roll up into the main billing account. And when I say roll up, what that means is all the balances that reside in these 5 accounts, the system looks at all of those balances, combines them at the end of the month, and it assigns them earnings credit. So your earnings credit rate currently is 0.31 basis points, which is actually a very competitive earnings credit. The industry standard is 0.19 right now with rates the way they are. So rate. And then the earnings credit is used to offset your service charges at the end of the month. So in these boxes is a list of all the different services that we have set up on these various accounts. So your balance reporting, so you can see all the transactions that are coming through, your ACH services, which are used to pay vendors or receive funds from vendors. You have your check writing, your positive pay service, or the ACH positive pay service, rather. We don't have positive pay on the check writing accounts, which is something I'm going to address next. And the money market account. So we're providing you with a lot of services that help run your day-to-day operations at the county. On the next slide, these are the 4 accounts that are non-analyzed. So these are essentially, if there is balances in these accounts, they're just idle balances that are not working for you as far as earnings credit goes. The last account here, the one ending 6897, that is your money market account. So you can see in the boxes the services that we're providing for these other additional accounts. Does anybody have questions on any of the services that we're providing or how the structure is set up?
Jennifer, this is Donna. Do you want to share your screen with the commissioners?
You know, unfortunately, I can't because I'm doing Zoom from my iPad because the bank won't let us download it. So I don't have a way. I don't have a way to connect.
That's okay.
So okay.
Okay.
Well, I'll ask a question with regard to these account structure pages. What do you mean on the ACH exposure limits, credits 450, debits 85?
450 is the 0.3.
So
correct?
those are your limits. So that's how much you can send out in either debits or credits. So that's the exposure that the bank has. The bank looks at credit, or as ACH as credit exposure. So because of the way ACH transactions work, the day you initiate it is not the day that the money leaves the account. So ACH transactions are usually a 1 or 2 day transaction. So something could potentially happen between the time you initiate your ACHs and they actually are received on the other end. So what the credit kind of exposure is.
Can I add to that?
Yes.
So it essentially sets a limit on your files that you send out. But if you go over it, which you can, I usually get an email saying that you've got an ACH over limit, and I would call Donna at that point, and we could talk about what's happening. So it's just another also security measure too, to make sure that there's no large ACHs going out without me seeing it.
Thank you, Claudia. Did that answer? Okay.
Yep.
Any other questions on the services that we're providing?
That's the Houston County Coffee Club.
That would be,
We actually don't have that anymore.
Well, you don't have
I
that.
don't
Okay.
think, or I don't, is there really any, I don't know if there's much anything in there. I don't take care of that at all, but,
yeah, if you guys put more, we can definitely do that.
yeah.
What was that, Carol?
That's the checking account that's used for the coffee room, but since it is kind of the county, we don't put it under a person's social security number. We put it under the county's federal ID. That's why it's showing. Yes, it is active. Small amounts.
Okay.
Coffee amounts.
Okay, so if there's no other questions on that structure, let's move to the next slide that's titled Service Fees. And I've posted rolling 12 months of service fees, and it's broken down each month. You see your earnings credit rate, which I mentioned is 0.31%. You've got your average balance, and then the amount of earnings credit, what your total charges were for that month, and then if there was a deficit or an overage for the earnings credit. So if we look at October, which is the last one, your earnings credit amount was $1,782, but your total charges were $2,057. So there was a deficit of $274.77. But we did, anytime that there is a deficit, we reverse those charges. So for the last, what I have identified here, the last 12 months, you have not paid any service fees for the services that we're providing for you. So I did want to mention a couple things. So right now you are, the 31 basis points on the earnings credit is fairly good considering where interest rates are right now. But we could potentially move those funds to a money market so that you could earn more interest. If we do that, you would see a service charge hit your account every month. And you would just have to know that the interest that you're earning in the money market, some of that interest would be used to pay your service charges. It's not anything we can do at the bank automatically. You would have to do that, in the accounting on your end. But we could potentially, instead of having that cash sit idle and earn an earnings credit, we could be making more of your money by keeping it in a money market. And as far as rates and stuff go, we're going to come back to that. That's something that Claudia is going to address for us. So Claudia, we can do that now or after, but that is what was that?
Oh, sorry. I'm saying I could talk about it now really quickly. It's
Sure. Go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna add that if that was the earnings credit when the funds are needing to cover those fees, it's in my mind, it's better to keep it in the money market, I'm sorry, in the checking account, but I am able to get, if you're interested in putting more of that into a money market or into the money market, I can go and get exception pricing. The rates are super low right now in money markets, but I have the ability to talk about you guys and go up to a committee and see if we can get that raised for you. If that's something that you're interested in doing more to earn more interest. However, the 0.31 is still extremely attractive in the months that you have those large the large fee needs and the balances are lower. I saw three months maybe where that money market could be really useful though. And I think the earnings, just in my quick analysis, was somewhere around 26,000, 27,000. So
right now, with the earnings credit at the 0.31, and then the charges that are charged against the account, anytime that there's anytime the charges exceed the earnings, you reverse that, so it's a zero. Offset that, anything that the earnings exceed the charges, that ends up at a zero also. So it's a net balance of zero at the end of the year.
right, correct.
So what you're saying is that we could put money into the money market, earn interest on that money in the money market, but then the charges wouldn't be reversed. It would be whatever the earnings is less the charges.
Correct.
So as an analyst, when you look at that, somebody mentioned $25,000, $26,000. Is that what we could be earning in over and above the charges? Or is that what we'd earn less the charges?
Well, taking a look at it, the way let's take a look at the last year. The analysis that I did was based on the excess balances. So in the months where your deposits covered the fees and there were excess balances, I took those months, primarily, I believe it was May, June, and October, and said, okay, what if the money was invested in that month, at a rate of like 0.15 as an example. And that's where I came up with the, potentially 20, I think it was around 26,000 when I did the analysis, that could be above and beyond what you're earning today. I hope that.
Just a question then. So instead of doing it the way we've done it in the past, we could have been putting money into the money markets and possibly earning some revenue over and above?
Potentially, yeah. It's just hard to know. Probably, hindsight, right? That there was excess money sitting there. But if you know that those balances are going to be really high, then there's probably a decision that needs to be made to move some of that money because you're going to be ahead on fees, and then there's probably excess funds that could be moved into a money market account. So that's something Donna would probably have to figure out just to make sure.
Yeah, because a lot of the services too are actually the majority of the services are priced per item, and your volume fluctuates. You've got months during the year that are busier than others, so your fees are going to be higher certain months because of the transaction volume. So that's something to take into consideration too when you're looking at the whole picture. And if you want to sweep money out, we could set a peg balance, to say, okay, we always want to keep this amount in the account to cover fees. But anytime it exceeds that amount, we want to sweep that into the money market. So those are, those are some other options for you too. I would say the majority of corporate customers, well, that's not true right now because the interest rate is environment. In a normal interest rate environment, customers would invest that money rather than use it to pay their fees, to just sit idle, because the rate just isn't as good. But in this odd interest rate environment that we're in, 31 basis points is pretty good. So if you can't get that in a money market somewhere, then I would say leave it, sit. But if we can get you a better rate in a money market, then it's definitely something to consider.
It's still up to Donna, then you don't advise, so Donna's got to decide when she wants to make, if she wants to make a move in that regard. You don't offer a service that advises us to do that?
Well, we could work with Donna to figure out what kind of the peg balance would be. And then if we set up an automatic sweep, we would just set the peg balance to let the system automatically say, okay, once the account hits this dollar amount, anything over that needs to get swept into a money market. And then you would earn interest on that. And then it would sweep back the next day to cover any obligations. So we could definitely work with Donna to identify, what that dollar amount should be.
I'm
But
sitting here it's budget time right now, and I'm sitting here looking at a budget that we're putting together, and I hear somebody say that we could be making conceivably $25,000 more. How come we haven't been doing that in the past is my question. That's, that we should have been doing instead of just running with the same old program that we always have. I don't want to interrupt because you got a lot of pages to go. It was just a question at this particular juncture.
Yep.
But right now, the money market isn't paying much, is it?
No.
That's the challenge. Right now, it hasn't been real profitable, go back and forth.
Right,
Historically, it's been
0.31
great.
is a better deal.
Right, and that's the earnings credit, and that's why more money's been left and maybe not actively managed quite as much from, down to the perspective of how to transfer funds to make it money work the hardest and those types of things.
Right. And to go back to Claudia's point too, she might have the opportunity to, get some exception pricing on a money market for you. So.
Mhm. Yeah, if that's a strategy that you're thinking you want to, I think the past strategy might have been more focused on the earnings credit, making sure you were able to cover the fees. But we do have those couple of months where there are overages, and I think we should consider doing something with the money market. So, and if we can peg that balance, Jennifer, and have some money move over automatically, maybe that's an option too.
So that 25,000 is just a guess or a estimate. It's not a sure thing. We don't know if that's the figure, but.
Right, I just took the historical. So if you take a look at the historical with a future rate, that I'm estimating, that's where I came up with that number. But I don't know what the future is, right? So the only thing I can do is try to get you a good rate.
Yep.
Yeah. We want you to know what the options are.
Yep.
Okay.
I have a question, Jennifer.
Yeah.
Claudia, do you know what the rate, like just a guesstimate of what the rate would be?
Yeah, I'm gonna put in a request to get a rate of 0.15, and then see where rates are at when I go for that request, and maybe if I could push higher, I will. But right now, I would probably push for 0.15.
Okay.
Really low, I know, but that's just the way the market is.
Thank you.
Okay. So I did want to talk to you a little bit about the fraud protection services. So if we move to the next slide, right now you guys do have the ACH fraud protection in place, but you do not have the fraud protection in place for the check writing. So if somebody were to get one of your account numbers, they could still get money out of the account if they produced a fraudulent check. They could also confiscate a check somewhere along the line and change the payee name. We've seen all kinds of check fraud. So we want to make sure that your account is secure and safe. And we highly recommend taking a look at the check positive pay service. And how that works is when you issue your checks, you would send us a check file that says, okay, check number 123 was issued for $100. And when the check is presented for payment, we match that up against the positive pay file and say, okay, they told us check 123 was written for $100, so we're going to go ahead and let that go through. But let's say check number 123 is being presented for $1,000. So somebody got the check and added a zero. We would stop that item and we would send it to you as an exception and say, hey, take a look at this because you told us the check was only $100 and it's being presented for $1,000. Is this good, or do you want us to return it? And we would act accordingly based on your instructions. So that's something that, Donna, I'm not sure if anyone has talked to you about in the past, but something that we should definitely look at for you to protect those accounts from check fraud. The other service I wanted to mention, which we already discussed, is the money market fund sweep. So that's something, if, you know, after we have some discussions about balances and rates, if you decide that we want to set a peg balance and put a sweep in place, you don't have to manually move money around. That is a service that we provide. I did include 2 or 3, there's 2 or 3 slides that just talk a little bit more about fraud protection and positive pay and the sweep that you can, you know, peruse at your leisure. It's got a little more detailed information. And then the last slide is just all of our contact information. So, you know, you've got Steve there locally, Claudia and I are available. And should you, you know, need any help outside of that, we have our customer service, Treasury Solutions customer service desk, and their contact information is on there as well. So does anybody have any questions for me on anything in the presentation?
Couple. On the check positive pay, I understand how that works, but if somebody gets a hold of our check and brings it into a bank to cash it, is that, I mean, is that like an instantaneous thing, or, you know, if I bring a check into the bank, endorse it, turn it into the whoever's at the window, do they cross-reference that check first? I mean,
yes.
How instantaneous is that?
Yeah, so when you send us your check file, the information is sent to the branches through the network, through the system. It's updated approximately every hour. But if somebody did bring a check, the account is flagged for positive pay. So if the teller doesn't see the item in the list, they would call. They would either call you or call Claudia. They'd call somebody to say, hey, you know, we've got this check that's being presented and it's not showing in our records. Is it good to go?
To expand on that, so what if I take it to a different bank? You know, there's other banks around that we bank with, and I take that $100 check with an extra zero, trying to get 1,000. I think going along with Bob's question, how does that other bank know it?
Well, they wouldn't cash the check. They would have to deposit it into their account, and then it would show up as an exception when it was presented to us for payment.
So there is a safeguard between different banks.
Yep.
Depending on the training of the teller.
Exactly.
Now, another question with regard to our accounts that are in money markets and whatnot. I mean, the FDIC had, you know, your insurance is for what, $250,000 per account? How are all our accounts 100% protected as far as if there's a banking catastrophe? I mean, how are we protected that way?
I'll address some of that. Basically, the 250 would be the FDIC threshold, but Donna gets a report currently on a monthly, I believe it's monthly, Donna?
Yes.
As far as we have collateral-backed securities, which is kind of common in the banking world, where we pledge collateral up to basically 110%. So above and beyond the 250s, you know, say you're over by 100,000, we would pledge 110,000 in collateral. And it basically operated through a third party independent, like Wells Fargo. It kind of says, hey, Bank of the West, you need to send some additional collateral to back that. Likewise, if your deposits fall below a certain level and they have too much collateral, we get a release from the county saying, hey, we want some of our collateral back. So it's backed by the collateral of basically government type of loans and things that are backed by the full faith of the government. So it's not technically FDIC insurance, but it's just like FDIC insurance. Having said that, with some of the money market sweeps and things of that nature, if you were to sweep into some of those money markets, there has been some ways of providing additional FDIC coverage. But in the real world, is FDIC quite as important as having the collateral backed securities? That's something to be determined. But with the FDIC, or excuse me, with the money market, what you can basically do is pool your dollars together. We do have some sweep accounts like that. They haven't been real cost effective from the standpoint of doing it that way. And historically, the state of Minnesota requires to have some of these collateral backed securities. So we just follow those guidelines. And that report is printed off and given to Donna, and she's the one that looks at the collateral coverage and make sure we're being compliant, and she's being compliant with state and Minnesota requirements and that type of thing.
So from a secured point of view, everything is covered as far as the balances of the funds that we have.
Right, it's covered strong. Like I said, it's not true FDIC insurance, but they're collateral backed securities, which is just as good as FDIC insurance, I guess, in my mind. But it's a discussion, I guess.
I guess the question I've got is what, Donna working with Claudia and maybe, I don't know, Jennifer, and how this would work as far as changing our way of doing things and balancing this out, and to see if we would actually generate some additional revenue by doing that instead of our past practice.
Yeah, and it's challenging because of the fluctuating balances that the county brings in differently than some businesses that have a set thing. I mean, you guys have large amounts of money coming in the door with real estate taxes being paid, large amounts of money going out the door with county projects and things like that. So we sit down with Donna and our team with cash management, kind of coming up with these target points, but that target is always moving. So it's very difficult to put a true value of here's what you can earn and hit it down to hammer exactly, because that's not life. And then
I don't think you can get an exact number, but knowing there's fluctuations, just to get an approximation of I guess I look at past practice, and if we could be making $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 more by doing that, why didn't we do it in the past? How come we didn't know we could do that in the past? Is it just because it's simpler to do it this way? But if we're making $20,000 or whatever the amount is, we should have been doing that in the past. So.
Well, and with some of the money markets too. I mean, whether it's manual movement, it takes initiative. Only 6 withdrawals per month that you can do back and forth, or coming out of the money market account, and there's some limitations at that standpoint. So, if it's just going to be going in there for a day or two, it takes a little bit more active management. If we're going to do like Claudia or Jennifer mentioned, having a pig balance of $3 million, anything above and beyond speech or certain things like that, we can look at some of those options, but your county dollars fluctuate all over. It's very difficult to hit a true target for you guys, but we want to certainly work the best we can to make sure money go to work for you.
And there's, like you said, the peak months when you've got the tax dollars coming in. Now we've got a large balance, and then that dwindles down, and you got to work with the averages and kind of see how that works, I would imagine.
And the related fees also kind of fluctuate in that same time period because more checks are being deposited. There's more overages and different things like that that make that expense to go up in those certain months too. So it's very difficult, like I said, because of the volatility of fluctuation of dollars. I mean, usually, you have those 4 main months probably where the majority of the income's coming in, but that's for you guys to sit together with the board or Donna or whoever makes those decisions to say, hey, let's try to make our money work harder, but this is our trigger points, and you guys kind of help let us know how we can,
That'd be a Donna and Carol thing as far as I think any of us are overly versed as far as this is concerned. I just, when I heard her mention that 25,000, then if we can be making some money instead of breaking out to a zero with Should be, that's all.
I guess on this, how costly is this in and out stuff? Is that you start saying there's fees when you do more than 6 transactions a month or whatever? Is there the benefit? Is it a big benefit, or after all the expenses, does it only get down to be about 5,000 or 6,000 instead of 25?
Definitely something, definitely something to take into consideration as we do the analysis, but we've got your services at a discounted rate, and, you know, we can, we would make it beneficial for you.
At least something to look at. Okay.
Yep.
Any other questions for our presenters?
So BNP Paribas is the parent company, so they're the majority.
Correct. BNP Paribas is our parent company, and like I said, they're mainly European area type of bank. They overall, we're the BNP Paribas, our parent company is our largest bank in the world. So, and they too kind of go with the same strategy of the sustainability, and the environmental aspect is really important to them as far as what their focus is on going forward. I mean, we're a separate company, but we kind of follow under some of their footsteps as far as what our focus is.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Greg, you got anything to add?
No, you guys covered a lot of the questions, so sounds good.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you much.
You guys appreciate it.
Enjoy your
Thank you,
day.
ladies. Have a good day.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day. Thank you for the opportunity.
Appreciate it. So moving on, we are scheduled to have a closed session then at 10:30. It's a little bit past that, but the closed session for labor negotiations. So the statute 13D.03 subdivision 1B to discuss labor negotiations. Proposals conducted pursuant to sections 179.8.01 to 179.8.25. Do I have a motion to close?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Got a motion and a second to close pursuant to all those different things that I read. Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of closing signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Sorry, Greg. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Move to go back into regular session.
I'll second it.
Motion made and seconded to come out of closed session. Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We're back into regular session. Tess, if you could give us a summary of the closed session.
Yes, we met in closed session for the purpose of labor negotiations with the 6 labor units that for the county. And we discussed strategies and proposals and potential counter proposals. No action was taken, no recommendations was made by the board.
Thank you. That said, we'll move on to the consent agenda, consisting of the 5 items on the agenda plus those 2 resignations and 2 searches for new employees. Any discussion with regard to the consent agenda before we take a vote on it?
I just need a clarification on the hire of Tricia Sand as probationary CPS at a C41 step 4 effective 12/27. Now that's under the old grid at that time.
Correct, Commissioner. It's the grid that we have in place now that we have the ability to offer employment.
Okay, so then if the new grid is adopted, then it would be under my calculations on step 1.
On the new grid.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Okay, just a minute. When did we come back into regular session? And I need a
11:15.
summary.
11:15.
Okay.
And then who made those motions?
Dewey made the motion to get, come out, and Teresa seconded it.
And then we need a brief summary for the minutes.
And Tess, what was your brief?
It should be in the recording.
It's in the recording, but I can go over it with you. Just not pursuant to a statute. 1308 to, and there was no action taken. I presented the status of each of the 6 units.
Okay, that's good.
Further discussion regarding the consent agenda. A motion in a second, please. Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Action items. First one, consider resolution 21-58, the proposed state land acquisition by the state of Minnesota for wildlife management area purposes in Hoka Township. This is on the basis of the presentation that we had earlier.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2158.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve resolution 21-58 for the proposed land acquisition by the state. Further discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item 2, consider approving the request from the Houston County Agricultural Society Fairbird for an additional $4,000. This is on the basis of the presentation by Ms. Johnson earlier this morning.
I make a motion, we approve the allocation of $4,000 to the Ag Society.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve the $4,000 allocation. Further discussion.
They've come a long ways in their budgeting presentations, and I really appreciate that.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. I'm sorry, Greg. Motion carries. Item 3, consider accepting a donation from Farm to Table event in the amount of $1,000 to the sheriff's office to use for sheriff's office needs.
He emailed me that he was gonna leave the meeting, so I didn't think that you would probably have any questions, but
So this is like a slush fund? I mean, sheriff's office needs, they're just whatever he wants.
Well, this is a donation from the farm and table.
So yes.
It's,
Accepting the
But
donation.
it's like a separate,
it's just like what they did for the
Canine.
the drone.
Oh, yeah.
drone money was towards the drone, canines towards canine. This is just towards whatever the sheriff wants.
Mhm.
Right, and we just
Kind
have
of
the veteran service ones where
Petty. Yeah.
donations for
And he uses it.
veterans.
$150 from the Brownsville, yep.
So it'd be like a petty cash where they can utilize it as needed.
That's a donation.
Donation,
It's a donation, yeah.
but it's for their
There's
needs.
no designation.
No,
What I'm getting at is there's no designation as to what it's used for.
No.
Nope.
It's not something the board has any say over.
It's under
It's the sheriff's there and he can
his
use it whatever he
discretion.
wants.
Yeah.
His discretion.
I make a motion to.
I'll make a
approve the-
motion to accept it.
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded to accept the farm to table event donation to the sheriff's office for $1,000. Further discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
All right.
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item 4, consider accepting the donation from Houston County Canine Foundation Incorporated in the amount of $1,500 for the K-9 lease. This donation is specific to the K-9 program.
I'll make a motion to accept the donation for the K-9 lease.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve the acceptance of the $1,000 donation. Further discussion?
1,500 it was.
Oh, excuse me, 1,500. Yep, thank you. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item number 5, consider accepting a donation from the Houston County K-9 Foundation in the amount of $2,571.75 for the new K-9 squad. I think that's for the cage in the squad. If
I
read
was
it
going to
right.
say that 2,100 will go very, or 500 go very far in a car. You think it is?
The way it read in the packet.
Packet,
and
yeah.
it was
The packet.
for the cage for the-
Did they find a different dog? Didn't they lose their dog or got killed?
He passed away, yeah. But that's nothing to do with this.
This is just transportation.
Yep.
Right.
Oh, just I move to accept a $2,571 donation for the squad purposes.
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded to accept the K-9 Foundation donation of $2,571.75. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item 6, consider approving change order number 34 to purchase and install a door closure at the new highway facility.
Yeah, Brian wasn't gonna stay for this, so I told him I'd take care of this, but this is a change order for putting an automatic closure on a door for the between the what do you call it, the
Break room.
break room and into the shop area. And it's just to make it automatic instead of, it wasn't automatic before, and it's to meet OSHA code to keep that door shut at all times. Because it's gonna be used quite frequently to go in and out. So it'd be a $759 change to that, but
Mhm.
When you say automatic door, is that a push button door or
no,
just you open it
no,
and it
it's
just
just,
closes itself
it's
shut?
a hydraulic cylinder type.
Okay.
The thing that we got in most of these doors.
It doesn't open it automatically, but it will close it when you
Okay,
go
it's
through.
just you can open the door and it's gonna shut
Yep.
on itself.
Yep.
Plunger system, or whatever you call it. I guess, see, it's the necessary. I move to approve change order number 34 for the highway department facility.
I'll second it.
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded to approve change order number 34 for the purchase and installation of a door closure at the highway facility. Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Right.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item number 7. Consider approving the 2022 Board of Commissioner meeting schedule.
I got it, but I didn't read every date to make sure it was the right
I'm just
date.
wondering for next year,
Yeah,
we have down as December 27th, no meeting. Do you guys think we should have a meeting? Just because I know it's right after Christmas, but we've only got 2 meetings again for the month of December.
I agree.
I think, I agree with that too, that we missed that period of time with AMC. And we've been 3 weeks now, and as you can see in the agenda, got filled in quite a bit in 3 weeks. So I would go along with coming back between Christmas and New Year's. and
It's either that or,
finalize.
right, yeah. It's either that or have another meeting in November, but I think December would be better.
yeah.
Just my
Year
opinion.
end.
Yep, year-end stuff.
Year-end things.
I don't
Sounds
see
good.
any issues. Yeah, I don't see any other issues with the rest of the schedule unless somebody else has anything.
Nope,
No.
I look good to
If
me.
we just add a regular meeting to the December 27th,
Right.
I approve the schedule for next year with the addition of the December 27th regular meeting.
I'll second it.
Okay, we've made a motion and a second to approve the 2022 Board of Commissioner meeting schedule with the notation adding December 27th as a regular board meeting. Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next item, number 8. Consider approval of the 2021
Yep.
Public Health and Human Services Budget Amendments.
I think we all got a copy from John on that.
Yep. These changes reflect the line item increases, decreases in payroll due to the 2021 labor contract settlements. A lump sum change had previously been provided to the board. Carol, you want to comment on that?
Yeah, we had approved the rest of them in July, and then Heidi pulled together.
Thank you.
And then Heidi pulled together where those changes affected each of the human services line items. She had a really pretty colorful sheet, but for the board packet, I just did the original budget, the amendments, and the final budget. But it totals that 94,000 that we had discussed in July when the others were done.
Right.
Commissioners, I'd also mention that the memo I sent out recently does not relate to this. This is a 2021 budget thing that has to do with contract settlements, labor contract settlements that landed in 2021. So that shows you the cost of that, the gross cost. What I sent out was potential or proposed budget cuts for 2022. So that's what that memo was that I sent out just a couple days ago, just to clarify.
Thank you.
Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve the Public Health and Human Service Budget Amendments.
I'll second it.
Motion made and seconded to approve the 2021 Public Health and Human Services Budget Amendments to reflect the line item increases, decreases in payroll due to 2021 labor contract settlements. Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Number 9, consider approving the memo of understanding with the University of Minnesota for providing extension programs locally and employing extension staff. This memorandum of understanding covers the AFNR, Ag, and 4-H Youth Development Extension educators. Also consider approving the memo of understanding addendum that covers a program intern. Due to budget reduction requests, it was offered to forego the program intern, substituting a program coordinator, i.e. the fair support, with a 2022 cost savings of $2,160 up to $2,940. Carol.
So I think you had discussed this, Eric
Yes.
and Teresa,
At the extension
committee meeting.
Yes.
You know, we do have to approve the first MOA for our extension agents, the
Right.
ag and the 4-H coordinator.
Yep.
So that is separate than the others, so that will need to be done. We sent out the budgets, we asked departments to take a look and see where they could possibly cut, and then I got the email from Lisa that said that you had discussed this at the extension meeting, and it's what the board has to decide. The intern program just started last year, and it seemed like it was really well received.
Yes.
We had presentations at the board that Kendra assisted with the fair. You know, I think it was a good program. Is it something that you want to cut the second year that we have it? They do always need help during the fair, so the the savings options, we wouldn't have to approve the addendum if we wanted to have a program coordinator. Or, yeah,
I
the
think we had
second one.
budgeted 4,500 if we went with an intern.
Right, with the intern.
And
So-
that would be for three months, basically. Is that
Yeah,
right?
yeah, but that wasn't gonna work out this time around because we don't have an extension educator yet
Right.
because of the resignation, so.
Well, we
they-
have an interim.
We have
Well,
an
an interim running, yeah, but given that fact, they didn't feel that they needed, it would be too much cumbersome because of the interim part of it, or a new hire to deal with another
intern.
intern. So we decided to go with the
Okay,
program coordinator.
Which would work basically.
Would
3
basically
weeks.
just work with Rebecca for help at the fair, so
Right.
it'd be a shorter stint.
okay, so she didn't outline and that.
Mhm.
But that was
Rationale.
discussed
the
at the extension,
rationale
last
behind it.
extension committee, yep.
So if you're not going to do the intern, we will only approve,
The coordinator.
Coordinator.
yeah.
Yep.
No,
Yep.
we
Yes,
only need to approve the first agreement for Rebecca and the ag.
Right.
There is no agreement right now for doing the intern the other way.
Correct.
so you need that, is that what you're trying to say?
No.
We don't-
Oh, you don't need to
don't
do
have
it,
to do anything with that. We
Okay.
only need to
Approve the
approve
initial
the initial
MOA.
all right,
MOA.
Yep.
And then we'll have a discussion with how it's gonna work for the others at Lisa.
okay,
I'll make a motion to approve the MOA with the U of M extension program.
I'll second it.
Motion made and seconded to approve the MOA for the U of M, providing extension programs locally for ag and 4-H youth development educators. Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All right.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. No action on the second MOA. Action item 10, authorize a request to expend funds to investigate 3 complaints that have been filed with the county attorney's office. Sure.
Now, I think we did have email correspondence on Friday regarding this after the agenda went out. This isn't actually a request to do the investigation. This was supposed to indicate that we need to have someone look at these complaints that have been received and determine if they actually warrant an investigation. So it's really just an initial inquiry where we would send them to someone, they would read these complaints and say, yes, that one has valid standing. Yes, that one has valid standing. No, that one doesn't. Or maybe none of them do, or maybe all of them do. But because of the conflict with the employees named in the investigation or in the complaints, we don't have someone here that can do that objectively.
Okay. What was the cost again, Carol?
It runs from, what is that, $195 to $220 an hour
Oh, okay.
with the contacts that I've made.
So-
We do have actually money, but it's just not in a place where it's designated for this type of.
Okay. Does that come out of the commissioner's fund budget?
Actually, it's in the attorney's office due
Okay.
to the not hiring the assistant county attorney.
Oh,
We have
okay.
Money there.
Okay.
So attorney's budget would be affected by this? County attorney's budget?
Mhm.
Right, it would be paid there.
So by approving this request to expend funds, it's proving a preliminary investigation
It's
into the,
approving an inquiry, initial inquiry into the complaints.
okay,
Okay.
Not a full-blown investigation until it's determined that
It's worth it. Okay.
Well, it's, I don't know how many hours it'll be taking to look at 3 complaints. I mean, 4 or 5 hours might be $1,000, I guess.
think he's probably not.
Okay.
$5 or anywhere near that. It's just reading it, a read through to see.
Okay, so we can't put like a limit of $1,000 up, spend up to 1,000? Or can we? I don't know. I'm just asking. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know if you want to do that.
No,
I don't think it would serve us.
or then they would definitely use up 1,000.
Well, yeah, they'd find a way to use it, that's sure.
Mhm.
Way Sam explained it to me, there's been complaints filed and we need to look into it.
Yep.
So,
Let's get her done.
yep.
Motion by somebody.
I'll move a motion.
I got a motion. Do I have a second?
Yep.
Got a motion and a second. Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Item 11, consider approval to disperse a $40,000 appropriation of Arpa funds to the, what's this? Creek Watershed
District.
Conservation District to support clean water efforts by the district. This is an appropriation. It is not a specific amount for anything in particular. It's just an
For them to
appropriation
use.
this year for them to use.
Sounds like a good deal.
I
I'll make a motion to disperse 40,000 from the ARPA funds.
I'll second it.
So a motion made and seconded to approve the $40,000 appropriation of ARPA funds to the Creek Watershed.
So does that go into our plan for January that we have to?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I was, I figured that, but, okay.
Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next item, consider hiring Martin Herrick as a probationary environmental services director, D61 exempt, step 4, effective December 20th, 2021. This is under your name, Tess. Anything to add?
No, Commissioners, well, excuse me, yes, I do have one item to add. Last time I met with you on this matter, it was pending the BCA's background study that we did hear back from the BCA that there was no findings by the BCA.
No background issues.
It was a criminal history check.
Not speeding tickets.
Background criminal history.
Criminal history check,
All right.
which is what we do for our employees. Sometimes they're pending and sometimes it's incomplete. So the matter is on your desk for consideration.
And they came back clear.
Yep.
So what is the pay at step 4?
Step 4 of the labor agreement by agreement is a 9-step agreement. And this is below the midpoint.
According to
MAPE agreement is a 9-step agreement. The proposed step is, pay step is slightly below midpoint.
Okay.
it's $40.62 is the way I read it.
Carol can't find it.
Spinning.
And then that's under the old grid. So then
Right.
if the new grid's adopted, it'll be at step 5, which would be up to
Closest thing is step.
4205.
I'll make a motion to hire Martin Herrick as probationary environmental service director.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to hire Martin Herrick as the probationary environmental services director. Discussion.
Well,
Yeah,
as you know,
Go ahead,
I
Greg.
think that should be, I think it should be tabled for now until after the investigation. Because you can't hire somebody when it's in an investigation. Especially when the board members are in the investigation and the HR.
Sam
I think
said
we
that
should
this
talk
is
to
a
attorney.
separate issue.
Commissioners, I request that all data practices be maintained. Requirements.
We've gone through this several times and we did the numbers. We all had, interviewed. We each had questions. We each had a chance to see the demeanor and actions. We got a chance to see all of the applicants. It's a numbers game.
Mhm.
We take numbers. Greg and Bob are involved in the budget. Teresa and Eric are involved in the negotiations. Numbers are what do it. I didn't see anybody else's numbers and they didn't see mine. We took the numbers, put them on a sheet of paper, gave it to HR to evaluate the numbers and come up with an average. Last week's meeting, when I was listening up there and that attorney guy was going through all of his stuff, the word I picked out was rationale. There's no rational reason not to hire this individual at this time.
I think the only rationale is what Greg was getting at.
I actually called Sam about that to see if we could move forward. And he said this is an independent decision and not related to the complaints. Not related. I shouldn't say that. It doesn't have anything to do with hiring him.
So what if there's something wrong with the way the hiring was done? And you hire Martin and that's the wrong person, then what do we do?
He's hired.
What's the rationale on the wrong person, Greg?
What's that?
What's the rationale of the
What was
wrong
that,
person
Louis?
being hired?
The question was, what is the rationale for saying this is the wrong person hired? We just lost.
I think
He's down there though.
not to put words in his mouth, but I think what he's getting at is the process of the hire that's considered in the complaints. So I think that's what he's getting at on that part of it. I'll bring up what I wanted to talk about. I feel that we should always try to promote within the county. And we had a second place candidate, Amelia, who I feel should be the one we should hire. She stepped up to the podium to fill in when Aaron resigned, and I think she did a good job. And I think it's with her experience in the zoning department, that's something we should have considered. And I think we should give deference to, and I'm not saying we should give preferential treatment, but we should strongly consider their experience. And so that's why I feel we should, and that's why I promoted to have a second interview and to get more details of the information from the candidates, but that wasn't considered, so.
I guess only from my perspective that we interviewed the three people. The process was followed according to what we had it set up at, that the three individuals all were ranked. We have a number one candidate based on our original findings. From my perspective, we have a candidate that is experienced. He's going to be very good as far as the administrative aspect of it, opening up the time frame for Amelia to be able to handle the different aspects without having to do the administrative aspect of it. And if we move Amelia forward. Now we're into the process of having to hire somebody to take the spot she's in. We don't have to do that. We're moving forward with a full office staff and we're done. So that's my perspective.
We do also have EEO that we have to follow,
Right.
and that was part of the process.
I understand that. I understand that.
Call for the vote. Can we call for the
So,
vote?
is it okay if I add another thing?
What is the
So
hurry?
I want to make a clarification. So this hire was strictly done on the first interview of the 12 questions and the ratings, correct? Is that a correct statement?
After the initial review of the applicants by HR. We had more than 3 applicants, right?
Commissioner, we had 4 applicants and we interviewed 3 who were qualified for interview.
We also looked at the documentation of experience and degrees, things like that that we put together. It wasn't, and nothing has been said against Amelia. I'm sure she's great. I appreciate what she's done. But when I saw some of the things that he has done in the past with solid waste, and that's one of our biggest issues right now is solid waste. And that was the tipping point for my evaluation.
I would again remind the board, we have data practice implications here. But what I would encourage you to not discuss any individual in particular as to their performance. What we did do was we followed the processes that we use for all of our searches. The way we opened the initial search, the way we posted it, advertised it. We graded the paper application, and then there was an interview. That is typically how we do all of our hires. We check references, and then we also have a VCA criminal history check. So the practice was in keeping with our processes that we have generally across the board for all of our positions.
Louis, when you said you got to look at the documentation and that on the candidates, can you expound on that?
So what was provided on the day of the interview, they gave a list of their degrees, their experience, and then they expanded on that. But what was the papers right there in front of us, all of us got the same paperwork. And I looked at the background, the experience, and the degrees. And my solid waste was my tipping point, to be honest with you.
And again, as far as the job description, solid waste is 15% of the job description. 70% of the job description is planning and zoning. So
Yeah, he has no experience in planning and zoning.
but it was based on the 12-question interview. So
yep,
from what I've been told. So.
Can we call for the vote
I'll make a
now?
motion, we table it.
Can't, we got a motion on the table and a second to approve. That supersedes any additional motions.
Right.
Good. So we've had a call to the question. The motion's been made and seconded to approve the hiring of Martin Herrick as a probationary environmental services director, D61, step 4, effective 12/20/21. We will vote by roll. We'll start Dewey,
Yes.
Eric,
No.
Teresa,
Yes.
Greg,
No,
I vote yes. The motion carries 3-2. Moving on to item number 13. Consider approval of the summit proposal for the replacement of the existing fire alarm panel and smoke detectors, heat detectors, horn strobes, and pull stations, and the associated inspection service agreement. And this is you again, Tess?
It's in the
Yeah,
packet.
it's like I'm saying at the end here. Have two contracts in front of you, proposals. One is for replacement of the unit, the other is for the annual inspection of the unit, and then we're recommending a monitoring of the unit. The panel, the simplex fire panel that we have is simply outdated. It is not sufficient anymore. The system itself, including the detectors, horns, strobe, really need to be replaced over there. This is the replacement cost. Some is out of La Crosse. And they are actually the company that is servicing our other facilities that we have. And that's it. And this is for the Woodland building.
Is this for all of our facilities
No,
or?
this is a replacement fire panel
Oh,
for the Woodland building, Commissioner.
Okay,
So it's 6175 is the amount for the install of the new equipment.
And all the equipment that is listed there, the fire panel, pull stations, horn strobes, heat detectors, smoke detectors, and the installation,
mhm.
initial testing.
Needs to be done. I'd say move to approve the install of the new equipment.
I'll second it.
Motion made and seconded to approve the expenditure for the replacing the existing fire alarm panel detectors, strobes, pull stations for the Woodland building. Total cost $61.75. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Thank you, Commissioner.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Second part of this is
The annual inspection would be $195, and then the monitoring of it.
For a total of $615.
Correct.
But we have to monitor it and take care of it once it's installed. I move to approve the inspection agreement of $615.
I'll second it.
motion made and it's seconded to approve the annual inspection and monitoring costs of $615 for the
Annual.
the summit proposal for the annual reviews. So that's next year's, that'll be next year's annual inspection then?
Correct.
Because it shouldn't be for the new one. They don't have to inspect it when they put it in. Okay,
Once a year, we're required to have all our units inspected.
but that's going to be the next
Next,
Budget. Inspection is part of it.
yes.
Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
As long as you're here, I just had a question for Tess on their contract with Warren County and G Cube. Do they end the end of this year?
That is my recollection,
So they'll be,
is that they are, I will double check the paperwork, but my recollection is they were through the end of December unless they had completed everything prior.
That takes care of all the action items. Moving forward to board updates. The budget is pretty well set, I think, Carol, as far as the budget is concerned for 2022. We will approve that at the next meeting of the board. But tonight we have our truth and taxation meeting, whereas people can come and discuss their taxes. It's not their valuation, it's the tax dollar amounts that their taxes are. So valuations, that comes in April and the spring. This is based on the notice that was sent out by the county for what their actual taxes are proposed to be based on the proposed budget and amounts between township, city, school, and county.
I did just want to comment that last year's TNT meeting ended up being mostly a lot of complaints and a lot of discussions being about rural vacant land and these values and that values, and that's not what this meeting is about.
Right.
And we have to keep it to where it's supposed to be. Last year's went way too far
Off subject.
off subject. I think the one guy 3 different times started talking about his building value. It's like, there's nothing that can change with that now, and if you want to contact the assessor's office. At previous meetings, we would announced at the beginning that this was not about value. This is about reviewing the budget that the county adopted that comes into play in this statement that you received.
Right.
If you have questions about your value yet, you need to contact the assessor's office. And actually, Tom used to be set up down in his office, and usually, I don't know, 75% of the people would get up and go down there because they were still questioning their value.
And see, that's a normal reaction by the taxpayers because they see that their values increased like $100,000. They're automatically thinking, well, my taxes are going up. So.
And your taxes will go up, but the time to address that was when you receive that valuation notice. That, you know, sure.
Or at the Board of
You know, it's the
Equalization.
person that maybe doesn't have a valuation increase, doesn't have a class code increase, yet their taxes went up. You know, that's something where you have to look at. So what's the county portion of it? What's the school portion of it? What's the city? And, you know, there's where you have to address that. But looking at specifically, my value went up and I don't think it should.
So what you're telling me is I gotta keep control of the meeting. And I'll let people-
I know, you know, and I shouldn't do
yes.
this because we are being filmed, but I
Get a
know a
bigger
couple
one.
times.
Yeah, there you go.
A couple times last year, I was like, you have to stop this.
You know, in the past, Carol, I remember over the years that we had the department heads that were invited to come to the meeting in case people had specific questions about their department
Right.
budget.
And they received a link to the Zoom
Okay. that's it.
meeting, so I guess I'm assuming they should know.
Okay.
We don't
sounds
have new
good.
department heads. They should know that they
Okay.
should be there.
Right. I think the only ones that would be questioned usually are our 3 biggest departments. Our 3 biggest departments would be the ones that got questions most of over the years.
That was just kind of what I
Okay.
wanted to say, is that
Thank you.
we need to make sure that we keep it.
Sure.
And last year was hard because the CJC wasn't really set up for the Zoom, and that's where it was, and you couldn't hear this one, and that one couldn't see this one, so this seems to be a better setup.
Yes.
And it's open.
Are you gonna have
Booklets?
a budget summary for people
Yes,
to look at?
that's what I'm working on.
Okay. I'm gonna take you away from that.
Get back, get her done.
Sounds good. Thank you, Carol.
Thank you. So Commissioner
Somebody send me
reports.
that link.
I think down
Carol,
at the-
you'll send Greg that link as far as the information.
Yes.
Yeah, she'll send it to you.
Good enough.
Commissioner reports. Who wants to go first? Greg, you want to go first with your report?
I ain't got too much to say. I had a good time up in the cities. That was a good learning experience. Didn't have much for meetings, I guess. We had but outside that, I don't have much to say, I guess. Oh, we got a little problem I see with some snow being pushed up in front of our buildings out there by Subway, or is that, would anybody know anything about that?
Oh.
I think Tess was addressing it.
Yeah, that was going on yesterday, so that's still being resolved.
Oh, okay, from a Bob Thorne or something, that Subway pushed their snow in front of our door, he couldn't get his
Yeah, the
vehicle out?
veteran service. Yeah, that was going on yesterday, and so they're trying to work that out.
Guy who pushed the snow from his property onto ours.
No.
Okay. Teresa? Oh, sorry, what?
Was there anybody complaining about the way our snow removal was done? There was an email in there that the sidewalks weren't shoveled and weren't salted. Does anybody know anything about that?
That also is being addressed. They, for some reason, didn't do the community services building there, my old Meyer Furniture Building.
Boy, I did
So-
not get that.
That's being addressed also. So from what I learned this yesterday when I was up here for negotiations. So the people that are in charge of, responsible for that they're going to be questioned and make sure it gets done.
That was part of that agreement we did a
Yep.
couple weeks ago with
Yep.
the local gentleman.
Snow removal, yeah.
Yep, so maybe he didn't know about that? Would
Could
that-
be.
Okay, all right. Resolve it.
That's all I got.
Teresa.
All right, I had lots of negotiation meetings, which we already summarized. Dewey and I are getting closer to presenting an ordinance on the no wake zone. It had to be checked by the DNR, did it, and our attorney's office, et cetera. But that'll come up for next year. But hopefully we'll be prepared for the bass tournaments next year with a no wake zone.
We'll have it done, I hope, before
Yes.
ice
soon.
gone.
Yes.
So it's settled.
But I do have copies of that. And I do want to make a special thank you for the two people that resigned this week. You know, Michelle Mossman's been here quite a while. Lauren Arneson, not quite as long, and I don't think we ever publicly thanked Mary Gulbranson for her service to the county. So I just wanted that in the minutes. Also, I met with slightly in the hallway with Carol and Allison about possibly having a meeting the last Tuesday of December to wrap up business. I don't know if anybody's opinion on it. Both of them thought it would be nice to be able to wrap up business on that last Tuesday, which would be the 28th. I actually have a household company from Canada, but
I'm fine with that. So we need to
Publish it.
publish that, get it in the,
Yeah, you'd have to decide today so we can for sure meet the 10 days. And then I'd also like to decide when the deadline will be for the packet because the winter holiday or Christmas, the county is off both Thursday and Friday. So it really wouldn't make sense to have a deadline Wednesday at noon, the day after the meeting. So I was thinking of a deadline of Monday at noon, but that will be a hard deadline. So I can get you guys the packet the night before the meeting. Or if you're available, you could do the meeting Wednesday instead of Tuesday, since we have to publicize it anyway. It's up to you how long you want to give people. You know what I mean?
I think that'd be fine the Monday, wouldn't it? Would that work for you or to get everything?
The overnight thing, and still stay on Tuesday, is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, I would plan to do the packet then Monday afternoon. You would get it. I won't leave here until you get it. So you get it Monday evening or Monday night, and you would just have to set aside some time to review it right before the meeting the next day.
could I possibly Zoom that meeting since?
Yep,
Okay,
you could.
thank you.
We're coming to the end of the year and you get 3 Zooms, so that can be one of yours.
Do we need a resolution or motion to set that date for 28th?
I think just
We just need to
a
have by
consensus.
consensus.
This is our announcement and then we'll also
Okay.
post it. But the press is here so they know.
Yep.
So Tuesday at 9, regular time.
Regular time.
On the 28th.
And then Donna, could you today let the departments know we will be having that meeting and let them know there'll be a hard deadline on noon the Monday before the meeting.
Yeah.
Nothing after noon is gonna make it.
Perfect.
Okay, thank you.
I had a lengthy summary of my AMC conference of things I wanted to bring up, but I think I'll wait till after. It's getting late this morning.
Get her done.
Okay. Well, I did go to some sessions at the future of government financing, and I really learned that there is a lot of sales tax money available to counties and cities or whoever adopts the sales tax from e-commerce. And I really think we need to research. I was going to do that after the first of the year, call AMC and find out the exact procedure, because I know it has to be done by August 1st, but it sounded like it, for counties like us where we don't have sales tax industries, you know, the would be a real source of revenue for us. I didn't get the exact amount would be, but I can check into that. But I really want us to consider that for next year. I went to one on remote work, working from home. That was very interesting. And I did get a couple examples from St. Louis County of remote policies that are very specific, and employees have to sign off on the remote, and you cannot work remotely if you're like well, I'm just using this as an example, a receptionist that has to be here for customer service. There's really no excuse for them unless they are sick or something, but then they should use sick time and not do remote work. Also, remote work should be designated to only one place so that you can't go, I'm gonna go see my mother today, I'll take my computers with me and work in a different county or something like that. It's supposed to be designated in the policy, you could have one remote place. And that doesn't cover like our sheriffs or deputies and things that work on wherever they're at. Anyway, it's a very good policy, and I'll pursue getting copies of that for us to consider adopting a stricter policy. They also said that you should, in the policy, you dress for work, you know, and sit in your pajamas all day. And if you get a call that you need to come in for something, you have 15 minutes to get ready to come into work, and then in their policy, and then you don't get paid for your commute time, but you can use if it takes you a half hour to get to work normally, that's what they would allow you to get to work if you have to come in for some reason. It was very specific, and I think we should be a little more specific in our policies too. Because otherwise anybody could say, well, it's bad weather today, I think I'll work from home just because of that, when you could be taking your sick time or your PTO time or whatever. I'll get copies of that to people later. And I went to the land use one, and then Eric and I also went to the pay equity one, which basically I think we knew what. Tessa is the one that was one of the presenters, so it was very good. But and leading through challenging times, they really encourage gratitude to your employees and each other as a way of dealing with some of those challenges we're all facing. Okay. I'll get to the rest of the information later.
No, that's fine.
I just wanted to summarize it because I thought it was a very good conference from the ones that I went to.
What do you got, Eric?
At our extension meeting last week, we're in the process of taking applications for the egg educator. And on the 5th of January, we're going to have a Zoom meeting to go over, if they have the applicants by then, to go over them and look at them and discuss further how we proceed. So just wanted to give you an up-to-date on that. This morning at land use, I didn't get there right away, but I caught the part where Noah from GIS is going to be leaving, so we're going to have another new person to work with. So they were all kind of a little bummed out about that, but
I didn't even know we had land use today.
yeah, the AMC kind of threw it up because it's the second week. So, but
and I was here.
Yeah. So they have a new person coming in, but it sounds like she's gonna be a good fit because she used to work in county government, so she has an understanding of between county government and dealing with GIS, so that might be a benefit there. So That's the only part I caught in their conversation. I don't know if Donna, you want to add anything more to that, but.
No, not really. I guess we kind of just talked about some things with Brian with the county building and maybe issues that Amelia's been having and nothing real great. And I think Eric, we did get a plat in yesterday. Another plat splitting the another MSM parcel. And Eric wasn't even really aware it was coming in, so I don't think he's in today, but that'll be another split off of a bunch of parcels to be added before the end of the year. With that said, we are like really busy with splits, and there's just a lot going on with that right now. Kat is doing a good job. Polly's really pushing hard to help out. So with Mary being, gone out of the office and resigned or retired, I should say, she's doing really well, but it's she's got to really, buckle down and get this done. But with the good news is we got Heidi started today, so she's in the license center, and so I haven't even had a chance to talk to her today yet. So. But that's the good news, and I think she can start out with a lot of things that with the motor vehicle, which is good. So that'll be a big help to Nikki. But one thing I just want to mention while I'm talking is I did submit the bid to the Argus for the newspaper bid, and so we will be accepting bids until 4 o'clock p.m. on December 30th. So we will have the first meeting of the year. We will accept the bid. We open the bids for the newspaper for 2022. So I know some of you have been kind of wondering about that. So I wanted to mention that today too.
You advertised that in the paper, didn't you?
Correct. I just put it in for next week, and it's also posted on the on our
website,
the auditor's window.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, it'll be in the paper next week.
Yeah, other than that, I don't have anything new except for what the stuff I attended AMC. I was a little disappointed that didn't have more discussion on the use of Arpa funds.
Yeah.
Me too.
There's didn't have hardly anything on that. The only thing I went to that one on broadband, and Scott County gave a presentation on that. And what they did, and they had a head start on that fact that they had started on this before the COVID hit about enacting something there. And they went with a wireless company to do broadband, and they paid for the towers and the shorter poles to get it out into the country. They were able to cover pretty much most of their county except for 50 families or so that they just can't get a signal to. But in Scott County, that's a little different than Houston County here with all the bluffs and everything. So it really wouldn't work for us down here. It might work up here on the ridge up here in the southwest district, maybe, but it was an interesting situation, and that's what they used their COVID CARES money for, was for that. So that was interesting, but like I say, it doesn't pertain to us down here. So, but other than that, that's all I got.
Well, I agree that there wasn't much to help us with the ARPA funding and how to utilize that. I did visit with a couple of people on what they're doing, and basically same as us right now, roads and things like that. Yesterday afternoon, I attended the Southeast Minnesota Communication Board meeting, and it gave a little good news. Up on top of the ridge by Hoka is another new wireless band, another wireless band tower going up. It's an existing tower that used to be with AT&T, and now they're putting up broadband, so it's able to get that area. And they're planning on more. So one other thing is a strategic plan for expanding dispatchers and helping with them. Looking at, what was it? Voice logging. So that's coming down the pike. So I'll get a hold of Mark and kind of get him online with that too. That's about it. I was at city council last night just to kind of see what's going on, and no feedback on that, their increase in the solid waste. Their budget was $8 million. So quite a bit for
That's
us.
quite a bit for a city,
Yep.
small city, or they're not small, but
That's what they ended up, 8.3 million.
What was the increase?
I didn't get that number.
Did they set their levy?
Yep. It was all done last night.
Okay.
Caledonia's was 6.5.
Yep.
Brownsville was 6 something too, I think. Wasn't
From my report, I went up to AMC with the rest of you, and I agree as far as ARPA. And I went to a couple of sessions with regard to new changes on how they're dealing with child placement from a human services point of view, and the new rules and regulations that are coming down from that. We had our current community services committee meeting this morning, and John also alluded to that as far as how that new way of doing things is going to be done. They talked up there about the opioid settlement and the dollars that are coming from that, which will be going to human services. There is some restrictions on what you can use that for. It would appear that Houston County is going to get someplace between $500,000 and $600,000 in settlement monies over 18 years.
Okay.
It's front loaded so that there's a larger percentage comes in the first 3 years, and then it tapers off over the last 18 years. They did not give us what those percentages were, just that someplace in the neighborhood of 500,000 to 600,000. They haven't got the total dollars yet, and the state has to make the decision as to how they're going to do that. And then I went last night to the Hiawatha Valley Mental Health quarterly meeting, and then they had the annual meeting and talked about the budget and where they stand on the budget. COVID did kind of raise heck with them as far as the last year. They ran in a pretty significant deficit because of inability to serve and loss of revenue and treatment facility projects and whatnot. The new budget appears to be able to, with COVID possibly settling down, but the new budget takes into consideration these changes so that they are anticipating the loss in revenue is going to be taken care of. One of the things that they talked about was that, and Eric talked about it today, was getting into the Caledonia High School. They're in the other high schools in Houston County and having an agreement with Caledonia High School for services to provide for that. I think I'll just end there. Say good enough, but that's all I'll report on for now. Anybody got anything else?
Yeah, I was just wondering, this is probably for Allison. Is there any kind of grants that some families can file for to get some internet to their buildings, to their house? I had a family call me about that, and I was just wondering if there's any grants that families can write to get the internet to their house.
I guess that's a question he's directing to you, Allison.
Not that I'm aware of off the top of my head. That doesn't mean it doesn't exist, but no, not that I know of.
Not something that qualifies from an EDA point of view, that individuals can't get an EDA grant for broadband or anything like that. It's not a business purpose. It's not a commercial purpose. Right?
Right. I mean, we don't have any EDA grants right now. We have a low interest loan, but that's for starting or expanding businesses.
Well, there's no way that we could create a grant from the ARPA money, is there? If we wanted to give out a few grants, is there any way we could create that or not?
Well, it depends on how they want to get their internet. It would have to, like the Scott County thing, they paid for the hardwire to get to the towers and then went through a company to get out the wireless signal. And so, that's an extensive work the deal. I don't know how this, and I'm not no expert in broadband here, but I don't know how we would do that, especially when we have two broadband providers in the county. We'd have to partner with them or something. I don't know how we would do that. I don't know.
I mean, the
Are we gonna get
broadband,
broadband in Houston County within a year or two, or anybody got any idea how long before we'll have broadband here?
We have broadband in the
Yeah.
county. It's just not entirely, it's just not the entire
Yeah,
county.
does
Typically, the
anybody have
way-
any idea?
typically
Go
the
ahead.
way the broadband grants that are out there work, like, for example, the state of Minnesota had a border to border, it's called border to border, and it's a broadband grant, and broadband companies would actually apply for that funding. And then they would use that funding to expand their service area. If we, as the county, wanted to do a grant for providers, we would need to create a grant program, take in applications, and then pick the best one based on whatever criteria we set. But the thing is, in order to actually do a project like that, they most likely would need a lot of money. So it'd be a huge chunk of the ARPA dollars. Like, we're talking like potentially 2 million. I am not aware of anything the other way where you directly give a grant to a homeowner to get broadband into their homes. And that could, just as an initial reaction, be a little interesting, because some people might say, well, I paid to get it in my house, and why didn't you help me at that time? I don't know how the equity would be with a program like that. So that's just my initial reaction. I probably should not say anything until I think about it more, but
Well, when I was listening to this broadband, when we had the phone companies here talking about what they have in their areas, and we saw a very area was not covered, is this the time that we start jacking them up a little bit and say, hey, you've asked for this area, you haven't utilized it? Can we encourage them to release to the current phone providers we have that are willing to do this broadband? Is that even feasible?
there is a company that has been awarded some federal dollars to expand in certain parts of the county, is my understanding. And they have until 2026 to do that, which is exactly the same time that the ARPA dollars would need to be used. I have never been able to get a hold of anyone at that company, and I don't know if we could even do that, even if they bowed out and said, no, we're not going to develop it. So there's that. But another thing that I keep saying is that, the infrastructure bill that just passed on the federal level has some funds in it for broadband expansion, and there are some other sources. So one thing to just think about is, would you want to put ARPA dollars also into that if there's other means of getting dollars for those types of projects for these providers?
Right,
You know,
there's
it's
money.
sort of saturated, I guess, in my opinion anyway, of what's out there.
Well, yeah, the infrastructure, the newly signed infrastructure bill is going to have a lot of money for broadband. So we'd be double coverage if we used our ARPA money plus used the infrastructure money that they're going to get directly probably from the feds or the state. So, and thing is with hardwire, buried cable, that's very expensive. So like $1 million doesn't go far, but we need that in this area because of our bluffs and topography. So, but there is the option for wireless for certain folks. So, and that company you were talking about, that's the coverage for like a block in in Caledonia here. Yeah.
Seems to
And-
me
and
they got a
nothing-
strip from Caledonia down towards Brownsville, right?
Yeah, and there's, you can't get a hold of them. You don't know what's happening. And it's kind of a weird situation.
They did talk about that up at the EMC conference with regard to if you have a company that had the contract to do it and non-supply, not
Didn't initiate or non.
isn't doing anything, isn't involved. There is a process to eliminate them and go with companies that will do the work.
That's something we should look
And
at.
I should say too, it's my understanding that it can be developed, it's just that federal dollars can't be used. So that's the catch. So,
For that company.
yes.
For that company.
Because that company was awarded federal dollars. So if another company wanted to come in and put broadband there and essentially beat them to it, they could. But a lot of, I shouldn't say a lot of, but what some companies that are doing that are expanding their broadband, they are using federal funds to do so. So they get first dibs. I don't know if that makes sense. It's very confusing, but.
They just did talk about that non-compliant people that had the contract. They couldn't get them to do anything. They did have,
There's a
it'd be something we
procedure.
should talk to Deed about as far as that type of a thing. They have a broadband department in Deed.
And that is, Deed has the border to border program, which is a completely separate program than we're talking about from this federal money that was awarded to this other company. But yes, Deed does have a
And they probably have the map as far as who has what. Each county.
yeah, and we were actually presented the map, like when Ascentech came and visited us, so we know where those areas are, yes.
But if anybody else wanted to do work in that area, it'd be at their expense because they can't use federal monies or.
Correct.
Yes. So that's the rub is that if Ace or Spring Grove decides to do the nice thing to get out there, that area, it's at their expense and without any assistance, it sounds like, from the feds.
I think we could use ARPA dollars for that because that's federal money.
Exactly, not unless
Unless they're
that
not
other company
using-
bows out and whatever source they had, okay, but
Get them to do that, right?
Yeah.
Is the question.
So if they bring fiber optic by my place, do I gotta pay to have them bring it to my house, or do they furnish it to my house if you sign up?
That'd be a question for the company.
yeah.
We don't know.
Okay.
Anything else? Otherwise, we'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Unless there's a public comment.
Oh, sorry. I forgot. Public comment.
There's nobody on.
John and Brian and HC and all that. but Nobody public, just all employees. There is no public comment. So now we would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Greg, I forgot again. Thank you. We'll see you all tonight, 6 o'clock, TNT.